Noiseless AI is here for Luminar Neo. Let's take a look. So we're going to look at three different images at three different ISO ranges. This one was shot at 2500, and as I zoom in here, you're going to see there's quite a bit of color noise and luminosity noise. On the right, you're going to see the new extension tab with Noiseless AI. So once you open that up, you're going to see right away that everything's grayed out, because to trigger it, you have to choose one of these ranges, low, medium, and high. So I'm going to go ahead with the middle suggestion here and let it process in real time, just so you get an idea how long it takes on my system. Ryzen 5800X, 32 gigabytes of RAM, RTX 3060 Ti. And I forgot what I was about to say. I went blank. So you see it processing. It will take some time. So as we look here, let's stay zoomed in. I'm going to do a before and after. So you see a lot of the color noise, especially on the fur. And if we do an after, you see it does a really good job of getting rid of it. Now let's go to the background and see that we still have a bit of artifacting caused by the noise reduction. And that's typically normal for most noise reduction software. Let's do a before and after. And as you can see very clearly how much noise there was. Now, how does this all work? So what I'm going to do is bring down all the settings, and we're going to start from scratch. And as we look at the image here, we see a lot of like RGB, a lot of red, green, and blue spots. And that is mostly color noise. And this is what we would use color denoise for. So if I bring this to about halfway, you see all that color is going to disappear. Luminosity, you'll see more dark spots, like black spots. There really isn't too much showing, but I can bring that up to improve it. Hopefully you saw that change. Let me zoom in here, bring that back down. You see there's some artifacting still. If there was more existing luminosity noise as well, we could further bring this up. Let me bring it up all the way. And you see now that it's not as bad when we're zoomed in this close. If I back off here, you see it makes the image very clean, but very smooth. And that's the downside of bringing up both the luminosity and the color noise all the way. The image starts to look too smooth, too plasticky. So you really got to find that balance, right? So to counteract that smoothness, you have details and sharpness. So if I bring the details up all the way up, you see how the noise starts to come back. That's because we're increasing the details, which will bring in more noise and artifacting. I'll bring that back down. The same applies to sharpness. Now, if I were to bring the sharpness all the way up, you're going to see, you should see more artifacting, but for some reason on this copy, it doesn't look like it's doing anything. Like if I bring the sharpness down, don't see a difference. Even if I use it in combination with details, so let me bring in the details. You tell me if you see a difference. I'm going to bring the sharpness all the way up. Okay, I see a hint of a difference. I really don't know that it's doing anything. And to be honest, my sharpening method, I use the separate details function here. This works much better than the default sharpening, I find anyway. So if I zoom out a little bit, you see that the image does retain some sharpness. But again, we started introducing a bit more noise, and we could apply it again or use a higher setting to get rid of that. Like if we increase the luminosity denoise, the color denoise, I think the middle settings was good enough for me. Like if we look at the background, there is a bit of artifacting. I may bring the denoise up just a bit here, the luminosity denoise, and it might even bring some of the details and the sharpness down. Now compared to the original, this is way better, and at proper viewing distance, it still looks realistic with it not looking too smooth. We could probably even bring the luminosity back down and it would still look very presentable. See if we look at the areas here, if we do a before and after, much cleaner. We look at the hair, there's enough detail on the fur. Very acceptable in my opinion. So personally, I would be pretty happy with this. A little bit of noise, it's not going to hurt nobody. Now, before we move on to the next two examples, I do want to point out one little bug that I discovered accidentally. Should you want to play with the sharpening afterwards, so I'm going to go into details here and sharpen up the image, which again is probably going to introduce more noise and artifacting. But let's say I'm not too happy with the details and sharpening within Noiseless AI. If I use this to sharpen it, so let me zoom in here. Actually, let me really exaggerate it here just to make a point. So yeah, I've added more detail just to sharpen the fur, but look what happens when I go back to Noiseless AI. The color denoise option is gone. So I've reported this to Skylum support. I don't think that was made by design. My thinking is because there's a details tab here, something is conflicting with the program. So not a huge deal. Again, I kind of discovered this by accident. So for example, number 2, we're still at the zoo. Hey, that rhymes. But this was shot in ISO 8000. We're going to go ahead and go again with the high suggestion. This time what I'm going to do actually is time it and give you roughly an idea how long it takes on my system. Roughly about 25 seconds. Not too bad. And this is a raw file, so it is bigger. I'd imagine JPEGs are smaller files and it may take less time. So depending on your file format, your mileage may vary. And of course, your system matters too. So let's do a quick before and after. We see more of that color noise there. There we go. In this last example, we're going to look at this slightly underexposed image that was shot in ISO 10,000, and it's just a picture of my drum kit. We're going to look at the noise here. We see a lot of luminosity noise there. There is color noise that you don't see because by default, Neo puts this profile on it and it kind of covers it. If you were to bring down the Noiseless AI settings, you'll see the original noise. Let's go ahead and click high, let it do its thing. And here we see the final result. As you can see, it does get rid of most of the noise. Again, there is some artifacting, a little bit of noise still showing, but you can really see, especially here, the artifacts. But again, if we're pixel peeping, not a huge deal. Like from here, it looks great. It looks like almost like a matte look, which I like, works fairly well. I definitely think it's a great addition to Neo. Now I'm curious to know though how it stacks up against On1 Photo Raw, Lightroom, or even Affinity Photo. So let me know in the comments below if you want to see that comparison video. Now if you're looking for some masking techniques, be sure to check out this video where I cover a few different masking techniques. Until the next video, my friends, I'll see you when I see you.